Like this video, comment and subscribe right now for a chance to win absolutely nothing. I told my parents to pay me back for my tuition if they want to talk to me. Am I the asshole for telling my wife the lock on my daughter's door does not get removed till my brother-in-law and his daughters are out of our house? My brother-in-law, Sammy, lost his home shortly after his divorce 10 months ago. He moved in with us and brought his twin daughters, Olivia and Sloane 18, with him a couple of months ago. His sister, my wife, and I have one daughter, Zoe 16, and she and her cousins aren't close, but get along fine. Olivia and Sloane have no respect for Zoe's privacy, none. They used to walk into her room and take everything they get their hands on. Makeup, phone accessories, clothes, school laptop etc. Zoe complained a lot, and I've already asked the girls to respect Zoe's privacy and stop taking things. My wife and Sammy saw no issue with this. After all, they're girls and this is typical teenage girls behavior. I completely disagreed. Last straw was when Zoe's bought a $60 MAC makeup kit that looks like a paint set that she saved up for over a month, and one of the girls, Sloane, took it without permission and ruined it by mixing shades together while using it. Don't know much about makeup, but that's what Zoe said when she found the kit on her bed and was crying. I told my wife and she said she'd ask Sloane to apologize, but I got Zoe a lock after I found she was moving valuable belongings out the house because of this incident. Sammy and his daughters saw the lock and weren't happy. The girls were extremely upset. Sammy asked about it and I straight up told him. He said my daughters aren't thieves. It's normal that girls of the same age borrow each other's stuff. He said Zoe could easily get another makeup kit for $15 from Walmart and shouldn't even be buying expensive add-on makeup in the first place, and suggested my wife take care of this defect in Zoe's personality, trying to appear older than she is. He excused me of being overprotective and babying Zoe with this level of enablement. I told him this is between me and my wife, but she shamed me for putting a lock on Zoe's door for her cousins to see and preventing them from spending time with her, saying I was supposed to treat them like daughters, then demanded I remove it, but I said this lock does not get removed till her brother and his daughters are out of our house. She got mad I was implying we kick them out and said her family'll hate me for this, so I reminded her that I'll let Sammy and his family move in, which is something her own family refused to do, so she should start with shaming / blaming them for not taking their own son and nieces / granddaughters in. If it wasn't for her family's unwillingness to help, we wouldn't be dealing with this much disturbance at home. Everyone's been giving me and Zoe silent treatment and my wife is very much upset over this. Not the asshole. Don't back down. You are the only one sticking up for Zoe. If her cousins want to use expensive makeup, give them your wife's. I guarantee she won't appreciate sharing anymore. They need to start behaving like appreciative guests, not the asshole. Your wife harbors someone who tells you that Zoe has a defect in her personality for buying an expensive makeup kit. That's the kind of thing that has people thinking about divorce, not the asshole. Your daughter doesn't feel like she has any privacy or respect in her own home, and you gave her a lock to give her back her privacy. You tried talking to your wife, your brother-in-law and your nieces, and that got you nowhere. If your daughter has to accept 3 additional add-ons living in her home, they need to accept her very reasonable boundaries of not taking and ruining her things. Good for you showing your daughter you respect and support her. Am I the asshole for punishing my son after he said something recess? About a week ago, my 39F family ordered Chinese food for delivery. When the delivery driver came to the door, my daughter, 16F, was taking the cat upstairs to put in her room because he always tries to eat the food. My son, 13M, loudly says, "Make sure to hide the cat from the Chinese guy," as I'm at the door getting the food from the Chinese delivery driver. He very obviously heard what my son said and was upset by it. I quickly apologized and took the food. I told my son that recess jokes were completely unacceptable and very wrong, and he refused to admit that he was in the wrong. So, Later that night I forced my son to write a sincere apology to the delivery driver. His name was on the receipt, as well as write a one-page paper on Chinese culture and a one-page paper on why recess is perpetuated by racist jokes and stereotypes. Then the next day I took him to the restaurant and had him read his apology aloud to the delivery driver as well as give him the papers he wrote. The driver was very appreciative of the apology and thanked me for making my son do it. He then told my son about multiple instances where he had faced recess comments and attacks from people while he was a delivery driver. That night my husband, 43M, and I got into an argument about me making our son do this. He told me that it was embarrassing for our son to have to do the apology and that the punishment didn't fit the crime. I told him that it was much more embarrassing for the driver to have to face that kind of recess and recess stereotypes and that our son would get over the embarrassment. I do not condone any kind of hateful thinking in my house, and the fact that my son said that embarrassed me as well. My husband told me that it was just a joke and it wasn't that big of a deal. I feel like I might have overreacted some, but I think it's important to help my son understand how what he said was wrong and hurtful. Not the ace-hole. Sounds like your husband could use the lesson too. Not the ace-hole. Your son may have been embarrassed, but he should be embarrassed for having said a racist joke. That kind of joke is meant to embarrass and humiliate the target, the delivery guy. You did right by your son by turning that around and showing him that his attitudes and jokes are the real embarrassment. Soon he will be too old to teach not to be recess. You are a great parent, and I hope your son takes this lesson to heart. Not the ace-hole. Your husband's attitude is precisely the problem, and is why systemic recess continues to propagate in this country. Kudos to you for a very just and well thought out lesson for your son, which I hope he can truly learn from and perhaps help solve some of the issues that are breaking our society apart. Perhaps your husband needs to do some similar homework in regards to what recess is and how it harms not simply the people it is directed at, but all people as a whole. Honestly, I'm so proud of you, in the most non-condescending way possible, for being such an excellent example of a person for your family. Am I the asshole for announcing that my dad's not paying my college tuition? My aunt and uncle are paying for my cousin's college. My dad had a college fund for me, but he had stipulations, like he wanted nothing below a B4 grades, and to pre-approve any classes I take, weekly meetings to discuss grades and a bunch of other stuff, which would be fine if you have a normal dad. Mine isn't. My dad has a temper, and I spent 6th 12th grade stressed out about grades and being screamed at or grounded over things that sometimes weren't even my fault, like a teacher not updating online grading and an assignment being marked missing because of it, and getting my backpack and locker randomly searched by him for no reason besides to make sure I'm not hiding anything. I decided to pay for school myself because of 1, not being stressed over getting screamed at, 2, I didn't feel like constantly worrying that he'd disapprove of a class or a grade and decide not to pay, which I could totally see him doing. I'd rather be in debt than controlled for 4 more years. I just finished my first year. Well, my family got together on the 4th, and, well, sometimes they're nosy. They were talking about my cousin's school and my uncle looked at my dad and said, well, how much is my name's school costing you? I said, what are you asking him for? I'm the one paying for it. Later on my dad was pissed off and said that it was out of line to say that, and I embarrassed him. I didn't do it to embarrass him. I was just being honest. He doesn't even know how much tuition is, so he was the wrong person to ask. Am I the ace-hole? Not the ace-hole. So what if he was embarrassed? His emotions are not yours to manage. You told the truth. Shut. Expand on it. Yeah. There were too many micromanaging strings attached to accepting money that I didn't want to relive my anxiety-ridden high school years. Also, your dad sound ridiculous and kinda scary. Maybe LC is the way to go. Not the ace-hole. It's embarrassing to him that you hate his control so much you turn down college being paid. And rightly so. He should be embarrassed, not the ace-hole. OP. It's really admirable how you're pursuing a college degree in spite of so many obstacles. I wish you best of luck. Am I the ace-hole for refusing to pay for my sister's husband's surgery with my inheritance/college money? Context: my sister, F27, And I, 18F, lost our dad a year ago. He was my only parent. Mom was never in mine or my sister's life. Dad left money, inheritance, for me and sister, and she used her inheritance to get new cars and renovate her house. I live with my aunt right now cause my brother-in-law didn't let me stay with my sister. I'm planning on using my inheritance money to pay for college tuition. I've always wanted to be doctor, but haven't decided which branch yet. My sister and I haven't been close. It started after she got married to her chronically ill husband, who was allowed to make backhanded comments about dad and mock his illness and make a scene at his funeral, only because he's ill and shouldn't be held accountable for his behavior. I've distanced myself, but my sister kept visiting a lot lately, venting about my brother-in-law's condition. He's been in and out the hospital for heart problems and in need for a surgery. She brought up my inheritance money several times, but I end up cutting the conversation. She then straight up asked if I could help pay for her husband's surgery and she'd pay back in less than a year. I felt uneasy cause if I give her money from my inheritance, which is a large amount, then there's no guarantee she'll pay back before it's time to apply for college. I'm taking a year gap, but I know my sister can't pay back that much, and I felt I was risking my future. I refused to help, and she had a meltdown at my aunt's house, calling me heartless, cruel with no empathy. She said that her husband's health should be a priority and I needed to help because education is nothing compared to someone's health, and asked if I'd be happy to see her as a widow and my nephew with no father. My aunt suggested others pay, but most of them cut my sister and her husband off. I argued that her husband's poor health isn't my fault after she kept blaming and guilt-tripping me. She kept crying, and although my aunt decided to stay out of it, she said that I should be prepared for permanent damage in my relationship with my sister if I don't help her now. She's been sending texts and pictures of her family telling me this is what I was saying no to: a happy, healthy family with a healthy husband and father. I cried and felt like I was being selfish, not good aunt and sister. I asked my friend, and he said, let them sell the cars and all the luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery, and warned me if I give them money I'll never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school. He said let them sell the cars and all the luxurious stuff they bought to afford the surgery, and warned me if I give them money I'll never get it back and may not be able to go to medical school. Your friend is correct. You'll never get the money back because C's isn't willing to give up her luxurious lifestyle. She chose how to spend her inheritance, didn't save for a rainy day, and isn't entitled to yours because of her poor financial planning. Not the ace-hole. Not the ace-hole. Your sister chose to spend money she got less than a year ago on expensive things instead of planning for the future like you did. Easy come, easy go, as they say. Do not give them a penny of your money. They have options they don't want to take, and that's not on you. You're not getting that money back if you lend it. You'll become a fine doctor someday. I'm rooting for you. Not the ace-hole. Your sister is manipulating you. She received the same money you did. If her husband is chronically ill, then they should have saved that money for his care instead of spending it on luxury items. She probably always planned to spend her money and yours. Will refusing to give her the money damage your relationship with her? Probably. But do you really want to give up your future to preserve the relationship you have with her now? Because it sounds like a terrible one. And don't think that giving her this money would improve the relationship at all. Am I the ace-hole for calling my sister's husband useless? My 17F sister, 34F, called me saying that her work had an emergency and she needs to get there as soon as possible and needed me to watch her kids because no one else can. I rushed over there just to find her husband locked in his game room playing video games. I asked her why she called me over if he was home, and she said he didn't want to babysit because it was his only day off. Sister left, and I started hanging with the kids. I was changing the baby's diaper and the other kids wanted a snack. I told them to go ask their dad to make them a snack, since the baby had a blowout, and it was going to take me a while to clean him up. Well, their dad sent them back upstairs, and told them to ask me again. After cleaning the baby up, I made the kids a snack and their dad came out to eat, and told me not to let the kids interrupt him on his day off. By the way, he works part-time from home, 6 days a week. I kind of snapped at him and told him it was my day off too, and that he's a useless ducking father and husband if his wife has to rely on her teenage sister rather than her own husband. He started telling me I was disrespectful and didn't understand how hard parenting is, and I told him he clearly doesn't understand how hard it is either, since he considers parenting his own children babysitting. He ended up kicking me out, and apparently my sister was forced to come home because he told her she needed to figure it out since I'm her sister. I feel like I may be the ace-hole because my sister is mad at me, her husband is mad at me, my mom is mad at me for causing drama, but my dad thinks it's funny and agrees with me. I definitely didn't need to call him names, but I just hate this guy so much. We have argued about things in the past as well, so we already don't have a great relationship. My sister is saying I need to apologize to him, and he is threatening to never let me into the kids' lives if I keep disrespecting him. Edit. Wow, I was not expecting this response at all. Thank you guys for all your comments, and to the people who messaged me nut pics or to kill myself. What? Why? Lol, you all are crazy. For anyone who has asked, no, he does not take care of the kids normally. My sister takes them to daycare during the day and then picks them up on her way home. She is the breadwinner and the primary caretaker. Also, I got a few questions of does she pay you? Not exactly, but she will randomly take me on expensive shopping sprees and will regularly buy things from my Amazon wishlist instead, and I have no problem with this arrangement. I really love those kids and don't have an issue babysitting them. I love hanging out with them. I also don't blame my mother for her being mad at me just because of the fact that my sister's dumbass husband texted her and apparently told her a much different version of what happened. Lol. He told her I was sitting on my phone the whole time being lazy and the kids kept begging me for a snack. Also, I did not yell at him in front of his kids. It was a private conversation. I might post an update, but nothing has really happened in the past day, so I don't really have much to say. No one has apologized to anyone yet. Hold up. Your sister had to leave work because her husband kicked you out, even though he was literally right there for the kids. Her husband is utterly useless and she needs a reality check. Me, personally, if I showed up just to find out the husband was there but didn't want to babysit his kids, I would have turned right back around. That's not an emergency. That's enabling. Your sister snacks too. OP. 1. She decided to burden you with unnecessary babysitting duties. 2. She didn't stand up for you when you did her family a favor. You snapped only after her partner rudely barked orders at you. You were completely right in what you said, and he kicked you out. People might make the case that she's being abused, but it honestly sounds like she's just crappy. If she was at all sorry for how you were treated and wasn't trying to use her children as a bargaining chip, I might feel differently. Stick with your dad on this one. Not the ace-hole. Not the ace-hole. They'll want you back in their lives when they need free babysitting again. I wouldn't apologize. It only reinforces the belief that he did nothing wrong and is able to get away with being an absent father. Why your sister puts up with that is beyond me. Don't give her a reason to believe what she is tolerating is normal, as who know what he says at home. Am I the ace-hole for making fun of a woman for being in her 40s and single? This whole saga started because my husband took my last name. A couple weeks ago he got his workplace to change it, and his co-workers found out. About half of them think this is the funniest thing ever, and about half are deeply offended. Brenda is in the offended half, and has made that clear. He and I are in a group chat with his co-workers, where we organize carpooling during the pandemic. It is very helpful to us, so we can't leave the chat since he changed his name. My husband and I have been dealing with a lot of dumb jokes in the chat, which we have been mostly ignoring. Yesterday Brenda, his co-worker, and I got into a bit of a spat. I messaged the group asking if someone could take my husband home, since I wouldn't be back from work until late and needed the car. One of his other co-workers agreed, and I thought that was that. Brenda messages the group saying maybe if you spent less time at work and more time being a wife, your husband wouldn't come into work with dirty shirts. I took this as a bad joke initially. My husband is a rural mail carrier, so his shirts look like shirts worn by someone in 90-degree heat on dusty roads. I do wash them, but there's only so much to be done. Me, I could make cleaning those shirts my full-time job, and it wouldn't do much lol. Brenda, you won't be married very long if you keep trying to be the man in the relationship. I'd be embarrassed as a wife if I did so little for my husband. Me, well I work more hours and pay the bills, so I think he can actually clean his own shirts if it's so important. Brenda, maybe you should learn to take proper care of your husband or you'll find yourself divorced. Me, I'll let you know when I need relationship advice from someone who is 42 and single. Now apparently Brenda is going around and saying that I mocked her for being single in her 40s. I don't care if someone is single in their 40s, but I think it's absolute bullshit that she can call me a bad wife, but I can't point out she has no frame of reference. Am I the asshole Reddit? Edit. People keep asking why I need to help arrange rides in the first place. When my husband is out on deliveries he rarely has cell service, so if I find out late that I'm going to be home late I need to be able to reach his co-workers directly. Multiple spouses are in the chat for the same reasons. Edit 2. People are saying that I've hurt my husband's feelings by saying I pay the bills. After reading the exchange he sent me a text saying sometimes I forget you're a hard little butch who takes no prisoners. I'm so proud lol. He's fine. I asked him just now if my comment about the bills hurt him, and he said lol yeah, it's so hard having a hot wife who makes good money. Really tough. Pray for me, not the asshole. What the heck? Brenda, mind your own single business. Obvious not the asshole. Brenda was the aggressor and super condescending and pretty sissistimo, and you hit her back with a zinger. Now salty Brenda wants to play the victim. PS am I the only one who thinks it's odd that you had to ask the husband's work group for a ride home for him and him, not just asking himself? Edit. A word. NTA. At all. She came out of left field and started insulting you for no reason. On top of that, she interjected herself into your marriage. Your retort was logical. What business does she have giving people unsolicited marriage advice when she's not in a successful marriage herself? For the future, don't engage. Simply say something like your remarks are inappropriate. I will not lower myself and respond to such comments. Do not speak to me unless you have something relevant to carpooling to say.